All right, welcome to Outdated and Uneducated Week 6 Waiver Wire Show. How's it going?
It's going really good. Having a good start to the week, good late games, good fun football all around. I'm feeling good. How are you?
I am here, yeah.
I'm just trying to forget my own team, even though they won in the fashion I always want them to win.
Well, yeah, and I went 7-3 in my 10 leagues this week,
Mm,
and I would have done better. I would have gone 9-1 if it
yeah.
wasn't for Mark Andrews just going
Oh yeah.
off.
He sent me. I went 3-0. I'm a three league guy. I
Okay,
went 3-0 because I won by I won by like 1 or 2 points. I needed 2 touchdowns and 2 2-point conversions to win in the second half, and he got him. I was like, oh wow, okay, well
wow.
that's crazy. Yeah, and
You don't see that often.
no. Anyway, but let's not dwell too much
Yeah.
on my success. let's talk about the NFL a little bit. Yeah, so I want to talk about where are we going first today?
Yeah, you want to go
Bills
Bills
Chiefs.
Chiefs. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh
obviously that
man,
was a heck of a game.
excellent
Bills,
call.
yeah.
Again,
And
twice.
You know, I had a feeling the Bills, this was kind of a statement game for them and for Josh Allen, and he came to play. The Chiefs, you know, they came to play, but messy conditions. But I
Yeah.
don't know if it's just their defense or what.
It's a little bit of the defense. I mean, it's definitely a lot of it of the defense. You got to do something, right? You have to have
Mhm.
some kind of defense to succeed in the NFL. You can't just like it's an offensive-driven league, in my opinion. But you got to have something in the back to hold up a little bit. And they're just not. They're getting walked all over. They're allowing an average of like 32 points a game. They've allowed less than 30 once, I think, and it was 29.
This
Like
is
you
crazy.
can't do that.
Mm-mm.
No, and huge statement game for Allen too. Man, I was coming off, but he brings me right back in. Too bad.
So, so you're on the Allen hype train for MVP then.
No, no, he won't be the MVP. No. Lamar Jackson had a better performance this week, honestly, but not
He
by and against a better team or a better defense. Sorry, better defense.
He did. That's the debate going back and forth. Obviously, in our
Hmm.
GC is about that, and I just think Lamar has more of the I don't know Heisman type moments. Those moments.
Hmm.
Allen had one of those with that leap.
Yeah,
That was
second
amazing.
time.
Yeah,
Second time. Exactly like when he did to Anthony Barr, who's like 6'7", so that was pretty impressive then too. Yeah, incredible. You really like what you're seeing out of Allen. I don't think I'm gonna call him like an MVP candidate quite yet. He's gonna be in the conversation. He'll probably get a vote or two, right? But like a serious candidate yet. But we'll get to those soon. It's a little too early to really
it's
start
early.
talking about that. Kirk Cousins is an MVP after 3 weeks. Like anyone can be an MVP for 5 weeks. Like it's a little too early to get into that for sure.
It is. It is. Yeah. I mean, so is this a bigger loss for the Chiefs or a bigger win for the Bills?
Bigger
That
bigger
stumped you
loss for
here.
the Chief. Bigger loss for the Chiefs, I think. Yeah, you caught me in a moment there. Yeah, I think the Bills like they just come in and they crushed it and it was dominant for them and I love to see it. I want the Bills to succeed personally. but,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
but yeah, I that is just like a way to lose the way you've lost a couple times in the past, a couple times recently where you're kind of stall on offense a little bit because you're getting figured out maybe and your defense just has nothing, right? There's nothing. If you stop cooking at all, you're done, right? So you
Hmm.
got to be putting
Hmm.
up points constantly throughout the game, and they're not doing that, and they're
Hmm.
getting beat the same way they got beat in the Super Bowl. They're getting beat like that a couple other times. That worries you. Like, okay, can you adjust to to what's happening to you because it keeps happening. And it's a classic I think team building from a team building perspective. It's a classic what was good is going to stay good and what was bad is going to get better situation, right? So like the defense played pretty good last year for them, like better than it has kind of in recent history, right? And the offensive line let them down. So like okay, we'll bring back the defense and we'll fix the offensive line. And it's just like it never works like that season to season. You have to constantly evaluate what you have, not based on what you've done, but what you need to do in the future.
Absolutely. And obviously, talking about the future, one of the quarterbacks that I think you wanted to talk about, and is possibly the future of Trey Lance. Did you have some
Yeah.
things that you kind of wanted to focus on with Trey
Yeah, I
Lance?
mean, he could be the future. I mean, we don't know yet. He's in kind of the oh screw it, I'll just run phase. You know, every mobile quarterback goes through this phase. Like ever, Josh Allen did it. Lamar Jackson did it. They all do it. They're like the Mitch Trubisky did it. They're like the oh heck, I'll just run right.
Right.
And so we see him making some good throws, some throws on the run. JT O'Sullivan from the quarterback school, who I'm a pretty big fan of, his YouTube videos for sure. He broke it down in a way where it was he's just making it harder on himself. You know, like the reads are open. He's not hitting and firing. He hasn't caught up to the NFL timing yet, and so we don't know if he's going to be good because he might. If eventually you have to. It's okay to not be there after playing like a handful of collegiate games and a handful of high school games, right? It's okay to not be there yet, but can he get the timing down? We know he can run. We know he can make athletic throws on the run, but you still need to be able to drop back and pass.
Yeah, and you kind of brought that up with obviously getting the timing down, the coaching, and all that. And I heard a story about Josh Allen, how he really had to have that coaching, and he had to be set
Yeah.
aside and say, you can't, I think it was one of the games where he threw a ton of picks, and basically you have to just kind of you can't try to do too much. And after that, he's really kind of turned it around, and obviously leadership wise, he's helped. And in Trey Lance, I think is in a good spot with his coaching where he could get that.
Yeah, he's in kind of. I would compare it to a Lamar Jackson situation, right? He's got a coach that you are extremely confident is going to empower his specific skill set, and so when you have that and you have talent, that's the combination you want, right? you want a young quarterback with upside and a coach willing to foster that upside in a very play calling way as well as in a development way, right? That's what every team is honestly looking for because it doesn't win every time, but it's like the definite way we know works for successful team building is talented young quarterback, play caller, facilitating, right? Like working in tandem. So they got what they want right now.
Yeah, and I wish I had that as a Bears fan. I wish we had that
Yeah.
with the situation. I just don't know.
Might get it soon.
Yeah, and Nagy has actually pulled back, and
Yeah.
so we'll see. We'll see. There's a little bit more positive Chicago sports radio, and we'll see. Hub Arkish was breaking out a little bit of the plays though from Justin Fields, and that he's just not quite getting it yet, and he doesn't quite have he doesn't do much with when he actually does the runs. So that was kind of an interesting point.
Yeah, he's just not. It's just not quite there. Like the routes are open. He's looking at it. He's just a little bit late, and then he's running, but it's not really what he should be doing, and so it's just like not as effective as it could be if he develops that mental quickness.
Yeah. So, I like Trey Lance. I like all these young quarterbacks. There's so many young quarterbacks, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to root for. It's good for the league when you have these young quarterbacks. When you even have a debate at all, right?
Yeah. No. It's the greatest. Yeah, it's fun and it's what you want to see. It's what people want to talk about. It's what gets people excited. Young quarterbacks. What can I say?
Well, speaking of other things that get people excited, and for me, Wednesday morning is always Christmas morning. Waiver wire stuff here. We've got, getting to the point where there's slim pickings, right? But we do have some upside on some of the players. Who are some that you're kind of looking at?
Yeah, there's a little slim pickings. There's opportunities in here though, for sure. Yeah, I want to go in. I'm definitely looking at I'm looking at Darrell Williams, and I already have Mac in a couple leagues. Like there's another rumor out there, fairly credible one, linking him to talks with trades to the Chiefs, which would be an immediate. Oh, sorry, I had trouble getting that one out. Which would be an immediate upside, boom, right there, running back one potential, right? Once he gets in that offense, it would be over. So I've already had Mac on my bench though, because the time you pick him up is when the kind of rumors are starting, and it's free agency, and it's Friday. It doesn't matter. Just pick the guy up because someone got injured, right? That's when you get it, right? Because it probably won't pay off. I mean, like if you're flipping a coin, like it's not good chances for you that he's gonna pay off. But if Mac does hit, if he does get traded to the Chiefs and starts for 5 weeks, like okay, like now you're carrying yourself into the playoffs, a little bit there. So that's the kind of lottery ticket you have to take. And I'm going for Derek Williams too. I'm blowing number 2 priority, Derek Williams tonight.
Oh yeah, I would go there. On a team that's got to put up points. And I did see Matthew Berry talk a little bit about how he likes Darrell Williams better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire anyway. So especially in that offense.
Yeah,
So,
well, he's certainly gone farther with that offense.
oh,
Yeah, Clyde
absolutely.
Edwards-Helaire has not been that impressive. He does okay in fantasy. He's just never looked impressive on the field. Never passed the eye test as like when you saw Kareem Hunt step on the field. Originally, you were like, oh,
Yes.
oh, right. And then when you see Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, like he got me 12 points, and like he did his job pretty good. Like not a bad back at all. But I don't think he has a long career with KC ahead of him.
Yeah, he had that first game, and everyone thought, "Oh, here he is," and then that was
Yeah,
it last year. And
yeah,
and so it sounds like he's done a little bit better this year. Now he's hurt, but
yeah.
not quite what you expected from all of the talent that coming out of LSU.
Yeah, yeah. Those are 2 running backs. Or what do you got? I think we both had Darrell Williams for sure. But
Yeah, that's an easy one. Another easy one. I actually interviewed a guy from the Giants, and he really likes Kadarius Toney. He really likes
okay,
that talent there. And with all the injuries, there's definitely opportunity, and they're really trying to get him involved a little bit more. Um, he, they're hoping to get him more involved on some of the kind of end arounds. Inexplicably, they're actually trying to do that with Evan Engram, and he's just slow. So,
yeah,
you know, with the
whatever.
offense, if they find ways to get Tony involved, he's got the talent, and he
Okay.
really could produce for them.
Has he? Yeah, I wonder how many targets he's had recently. He's probably had a few, right?
He has, yeah, yeah.
Okay, good, good,
It's
good.
especially with when you get Sterling Shepard out, and
Yeah,
the other Slayton's been out as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
another player that's really surprised me, and I wasn't really sure about was Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, he'll do that from time to time, huh?
Yeah, and so you wonder, is it just kind of a flash in the pan? But what you go with is similar to going with Darrell Williams. You go with, and he's probably on a lot of rosters anyway. But if he's
hmm
not, you know, you go with him because he's on such a potent offense. And if Stephon Diggs is going to be covered, he's going to get a lot of targets, and he's going to get a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, the ball's going to get thrown in that offense regardless of who's playing. So yeah,
Right.
whoever's there is going to be targeted with just those rockets coming down the field. And Emmanuel Sanders has always been a good downfield receiver. So I mean, it makes sense. Like he's definitely not blowing the doors off any more like he used to maybe. But
Mm-mm.
I definitely worth a little pickup. I'd use prior like maybe not a 1, but like I'm into it. I would take him if he was out there.
So speaking of another wide receiver that you like, who comes out of the category of somebody has to get targets. You like St. Brown?
Yeah, Amon Ra, St. Brown. Yeah, he's coming off back-to-back solid games, right? And it was with the opportunity, right? So first 2 games, he was not targeted very often. He was
Mm,
targeted like 10 times within the first 3 games, and
yeah.
then the last 2 games, it was 8 and then 8. And then with that came points, came PPR points, came scoring. He's coming off really strong back-to-back weeks, and someone's gonna get the ball. Goff's not a bad quarterback. It's not a terrible offense. Like it's not a good offense. They're the Lions. They're gonna do Lionsy things. Someone's gonna
No,
catch.
totally.
They're gonna put up a fight, right? And so yeah, I'm gonna pick him up. I'm gonna pick him up, and I'm gonna stash him. I'm not gonna play him this week probably, unless I have to. But I have heavy bye weeks next week, and I'd like to talk about that in a little bit too.
Yeah, that good stuff. And obviously with Williams, Tyrell Williams is still out. We don't know when he's going to be back.
No.
So, that does help there as
Yeah.
well. And one player that I feel almost dirty talking about, but Carson Wentz.
Yeah, why
I
not?
he's done really well. I was watching a little bit of that game on Monday night, and he he made some good plays. Obviously, the kickers didn't, but he's right up there. Especially, yeah, when you talk about all the
Yeah.
bye weeks, that might be an option at quarterback.
Yeah, I mean he's been solid for most of the season. Honestly, looking back now retroactively at his scores, like he's been, hanging out in the low to mid 20s. Like in like a 4 touchdown league, a 4 point touchdown league, right? So that's a fine pickup. I don't know that I would use priority on it unless I had who's is there any quarterbacks that are like injured right now that would go that like I don't know who I would have to be hurting pretty bad to use a priority on it, I think, but I'll definitely pick him up as a free agent streamer if I'm streaming. If I had Kirk Cousins, if I had I don't know if I had Garoppolo, like, and now I'm looking for someone else to like just like okay I
Right.
gotta put a guy in like it's a bye week like whatever like yeah not a bad pickup at this point in the season because he could ascend from here. We've seen it before, right? It wouldn't be the first time we see Carson Wentz put up big fantasy points.
Right. Yeah, and it's definitely like better if it's like a two quarterback league.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, then you have to. Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. If it's a 2 QB league, you're snapping him up, especially in redraft.
But yeah, definitely a stash too for if you've got like a bye week with those coming up. I try in my drafts to stagger so I don't have as many, but there are a couple of leagues where I just wasn't able to do that in some of the players, and so I mean that helps to have those players stashed away on your bench.
Yeah. No, it does. Yeah, absolutely. Especially a QB who's gonna not probably not tank your week. It's nice
Right.
to have if you're
Right.
hurting, because that's one thing a QB can do. Can just tank your week. you know.
Well, and help me out with this one
Sure.
too. This other quarterback, you know, another one that just I don't feel all that good about, but I'm willing to stash my bench. Tua is supposedly coming back. What
Okay.
would you do with Tua?
I would trade in Dynasty. I would trade a couple starting wide receivers for him.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's
Okay.
I did actually back where when he got right before he got injured. Actually, it was when he was questionable, but the injury news hadn't been released. So I
Yeah.
sent like Aguilar and somebody else. Aguilar and oh I forgot he plays for the Jaguars. Anyway, and yeah, I for Tua because why not? I don't know if it were a redraft though. Like if I would
Mm-hmm.
really. So okay, you know what? No, here it is. Now's the time to pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you don't use your priority, but
Mm-hmm.
you pick them up free agency this week if you have the space. If you can carry another QB, great. If you think you're gonna need one like for a bye week in a couple weeks, like this is how you gain value because eventually people do get desperate and when Tua comes back, someone's gonna use a priority on him or you're gonna have to spend fab on him, right? So I would say just pick them up on the cheap, pick them up on the free agent market, and yeah, stash and pray.
Well, and especially when you look at some of his upcoming schedule, right? Like if let's see, we are week 6, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see if he comes back. It's Jacksonville, Atlanta, Buffalo will be tough.
Okay.
Houston, Baltimore, you can throw on, right?
Oh yeah.
The Jets,
Oh yeah.
um, Carolina's going to be tough. The Giants have been iffy.
Yeah.
Let's see the Jets again, Saints, and Tennessee and New England. So he could be
Be
one.
okay.
He's got a favorable schedule.
Yeah.
He's got the talent.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him to do well. So.
I have been from the beginning. I was
Mhm.
like Tua. But yeah, I pick him up on the free agent absolutely, and just stash him, just like you said, in the hopes this is how you win. Because getting things for free is how you win in fantasy. Honestly, like yeah, you can pay for stuff and you can pay the most for stuff and you can try the hard. But if you get stuff for free just by thinking ahead a couple weeks, it'll get you a couple wins every once in a while.
Right. And just a couple others that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, Ricky Seals Jones could be a good pickup at tight end.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of targets. That could be you know to get you through the bye week.
Yeah, if you had so the San Francisco Chiefs, you had Kittle.
Yep.
This would be a good one to maybe swoop up. Yeah,
Hmm.
he's getting I mean, we'll see. He is getting targets though. he is getting more targets now later in the season, so that's interesting. And I wonder if that'll continue. He got 8 targets and then 4 targets in his last 2 games. Not the end of the world. That's definitely a desperation play if you're hurting, if you're streaming, or if you have Kittle this week. I would pick him up on free agency and play him. I don't think he's going to be very sought after. I think you can get away with it.
Definitely, yep. And, another team, if you're streaming defenses, I'm looking at the Bengals defense this week. That's, something they haven't necessarily played all that well, but if you need a fill-in, that's definitely, they're playing the Lions. For this week, the Lions aren't scoring a lot of points. There can be some opportunity there, so I don't love it, but if I need to, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's not the end of the world, right? Yeah, they're not going to... Yeah, that's fine. I might even consider that. I might even take your advice on that on the one league that still has a defense that I play in. Yeah, for sure. That's not a bad pickup. I've been playing Denver a lot, and they've just been kind of diminishing returns as the season goes on. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But I think the Bengals is a solid play. Anyone against the Lions who has a decent defense, and the Bengals have a decent defense. They have a decent defensive line. They have a good pairing at safety, and their cornerbacks aren't terrible. So they'll be okay against the Lions, right? The Vikings are okay against the Lions. The Bengals will too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of weird roster spots, obviously it was an interesting week for kickers. How many leagues do you play in that have kicker fantasy spots?
2, unfortunately. One, I'm surprised still has it. Yeah, I just ignored that this week. Yeah, no. I had it doesn't matter who I had. I had Prater. I just plug in a kicker. Like, honestly, and if they're doing terrible, I find another one on the free agent market. It's stupid. You're right. I don't know. I don't even know why I have it.
I'm most of the leagues, it's just kind of a throw in, and it's so interesting when people in the draft, pick the kickers high, and there are some kickers that you can rely on, Justin Tucker, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Who's the second one?
Yeah.
Year to year that you can rely on, that next year you'll be able to rely on.
Well, he's old, but the guy from San Francisco, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's on IR now too. So, who would you say? Who else would you say?
I wouldn't even care to chance a guess.
So speaking of that, I actually was going to joke and say that I was going to put all my fab money this week on Greg Joseph. So
he's the only one making kicks, and he's perfect from 50 plus this year. Just drilling them. And I remember in training camp, everyone, like the fan base, the local media, like the national media, everyone was wondering why they don't just try out another kicker. They just was like, oh, this guy who's never done it before, he's the guy. And then we're like, oh, this other guy, but he's kind of hurt, so we'll screw him. Like, no, it's just Greg Joseph, no competition. Plenty of free agents on the open market that we could have chosen. Like, no, Greg Joseph. And then everyone was like, well, he doesn't have a very big leg, was his criticism. Like, he hadn't made a lot of field goals from, it was like a weakness of his in college, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
And so no one expected it, and I was just drilling him from 50 consistently, no problem. So, yeah, if Greg Joseph's on your waiver wire still, I mean, I might even blow priority on him, I guess, because you can get an advantage. But then, wait. It's a Vikings kicker. Don't blow priority on him. But
I figured you would say that. It's a Vikings kicker. Yes.
Because when it's going good, you never know. No team, worst. Never mind. I won't go into it.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Well, and you have one of the only kickers, the Bengals kicker, that was one of the only kickers that was drafted this year. He celebrated ahead of time. He's been pretty good, but he celebrated ahead of time. That was such a weird thing.
That was weird. He thought it went in. He thought
did.
It was in.
Yep.
So. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, that was embarrassing for sure. Yeah, no, it's weird. It's a weird year for kickers. It's just been a terror. That was the most kicks missed of any week since 1987.
Oh, wow. Okay, I hadn't heard that. Yeah.
1987. Yeah. So that's pretty wild. It's a weird, that's out of the ordinary. But kicking has been inconsistent for a long time, and I feel like maybe I just remember it wrong, but it might have just been better 10 years ago,
Yeah, you had more kickers that you could rely on.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yep. And now it's you for me, I look at there is Tyler Bass. He's there with the Bills.
Yeah,
But he's not one, you get later on the season and he's not one that I'm going to want to have, if they're playing home games in Buffalo in the
yeah,
wintertime. So I definitely look at that. It's an extra thing. It's, sometimes it's just a little bit, you got to look at the weather,
yeah,
predictions and all of
yeah.
that. And cause that does make a
Yeah,
difference.
and as well as that, the thing about kicker, it's so unpredictable and so much relies on play calling. Like for example,
Mhm.
I think in the winter, like you mentioned, not only will it be difficult to kick from lengthy yardage, like 35, like from the 35-yard line back, it will be. I don't think they'll do it very often, right? They'll
Mhm.
like Sean McDermott will probably just have him go for it.
Mhm.
If it's a long field goal, like on the opponent's half of the field, and that's honestly has to be the correct choice, like over the long term. So you don't even want to take a guy who's not going to get the
Mhm.
opportunity. Go for a team with an old school coach. I guess a Vikings kicker isn't bad because at least we're going to take him.
Right. Right. Well, speaking of different trades, we've done this in the past, and
Oh,
uh,
I've heard for this.
yeah. So, are you a commissioner in any leagues?
No, no,
Okay.
I've never taken on the responsibility.
So it's good and bad.
Hmm.
I enjoy being a commissioner because then I
Yeah,
can, do stuff with the IR.
yeah.
Just I think that's important and all of that. Uh, but some of the duties of commissioner are always interesting with the trades, and so and this happened to be in a league with my son. So
Oh,
I've heard it on a different level.
added drama.
Yes. So he and I told him not to do this, but um, with trades, I like to do it kind of, Wednesday, whatever,
Yeah,
early,
yeah.
he agreed to a trade on a Saturday,
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
So in the trade, then, well, he must have put it on Friday or Saturday morning, and it went through on Saturday. It was agreed to. I think it went right through. So it was agreed
Oh my
to.
goodness.
Yes.
Okay.
And so then it was locked in until this morning, right?
Yeah.
So here's the trade. He gave up Mike Davis
Okay.
and Stephon Diggs.
Okay.
Yes,
Disappointing
yes,
season so far, but
yes.
yeah.
For Emmanuel Sanders
Okay. No.
and Saquon Barkley.
Oh no.
So my
Ooh.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a that's a
so as a
big L right there.
yeah, so as a
Yeah.
commissioner, I kind of weighed that, and obviously I had my son kind of talking about this, but I weighed back
Yeah.
and forth. Do you veto that trade?
Ooh. Mm. I might. I might. But I don't know though because that's just like what happens if you do that,
Well,
like that's
let me
just like, and that's kind of when you roll the dice like that, that's what you usually take into account. Like you can't,
Mhm,
not every commissioner is going to reverse that, so
mhm.
you should never do that if you're not willing to accept the consequence,
Let,
right?
let
Because
me
there's going to be some commissioners that will deny that. I don't know that I would though.
and let me preface this too. This same
Yeah,
team that he traded them to um,
yeah,
ended up getting traded George Kittle and someone else, and then George Kittle went on IR, and so I allowed that trade to go through. So if I allowed that, if I
yeah, yeah.
vetoed,
No, if
then it
there's a
would have to
precedent set, then yeah,
correct.
sure, follow. Yeah, you gotta follow it. Yeah, but oof. Yeah,
Now,
don't, and like I'm not gonna say don't do that because
mhm,
sometimes you just are it's hard to get someone to agree to a trade. And
yes,
so if there's a time at which you can get someone to agree to a trade, then sometimes you just got to take that risk. But you are always taking that risk with that trade.
mhm.
If you traded it on Tuesday, if you traded on Saturday, the same risk of that player getting injured on Sunday, right? So it's just like, yeah, that's what happens. You kind of got to let it go through.
So, and the reasoning that I did let it go through, if it had been season-ending injury with Saquon, that might have been different,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, like ACL or Achilles or something.
Yep. So, but knowing that it'll be only a few weeks, we'll see. With Saquon, you just never know.
Yeah,
I try to advise him. He's a hard one to draft for with that injury background, but I let it go through, and I kind of explained to him too. I said I looked at all of the rosters, and I said, hey, you're in a better spot regardless. and you have to think further down the line. If you can have him on your bench, he comes back for the stretch run. I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's actually a fair point as well, right? And that's how you got to look at it. If you just take an L like that, because that's a massive woof for sure. But yeah, you got to be able to recover from it. Right? You got to have a plan, and like sometimes it's just a season-ending injury, and maybe the commissioner still's like, nope, went through, like, which is a valid, like, honestly, either one is kind of valid depending on how you have the league set up, right? But
Right.
not every league is going to is going to watch your back like that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
you're taking that risk. But yeah, you can recover from it, right? Because he's probably doing fine, and you can come off the bench later. Yeah, no problem. Let it go through.
Yeah, I like your points even back with the waiver wire stuff. You have to be, win at fantasy football. You can't just think week to week. You can't think of kind of what's in front of you. You have to think of what's further down the line, right?
Yeah. Well, that's where the value is. Yeah, just where the value is. And yeah, because if you lost today, there's always value in tomorrow, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Well, anything else that you wanted to talk about? I'm excited for another week. We have another great Thursday night matchup. We got a
Yeah.
few games that we can talk about on Thursday.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited for the weekend of football. I think we're good from here. I think this was great, and yeah, looking forward to preview a couple of games on Thursday, and yeah, see where it takes us. Looking forward to that game too. Well, it's gonna be hard to peel myself away, but I will. I'll do it for y'all.
Sounds good. All right. Well, this has been Outdated and Uneducated, and definitely find me at NFL Outdated on Twitter. And
you can find me at Uneducated Takes on Twitter and on here.
we'll see you later.
All right, take it easy, y'all.